Dinner Conversations is brought to you by Child Fund, a community development organization that has been envisioning a world where every child is free to live at their fullest potential, no matter where they're from or what challenges they face since 1938.
Partner with us and our good friends at Child Fund to change the world and the life of a child by considering sponsoring a child today.
It really does take so little to make a difference.
Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations.
A child is waiting. On today's Dinner Conversation, it's really an interesting program. It's about a thing called the Enneagram. Come to find out, I'm a 7.
And I'm a 2.
And what it is a personality test of sorts that helps you figure out what little number you fall into as your priority number, and then you might have a wing, and it's very complicated, but it's enlightening. It really is, and it's something the millennials know all about.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's newer and exciting. Ian Morgan Cron, one of our guests today, is a fantastic author of Chasing Francis, and the new book, The Road Back to You, which is about the Enneagram, which is all about how we interact with ourselves and others and God, and also Lisa Whelchel, who was on the TV show The Facts of Life, was on Survivor, and is now a life coach for Contigo Life Coaching, which you can find more about at her website, lisawhelchel.com. So it's a fascinating, Mark is really getting to know himself.
Yeah, and there's one seat left at the table, and it's yours. Let's join the conversation.
Well, okay, so but more than numbers, is it really a simple, this has been my main question from the beginning. Very good or not good?
Delicious.
Oh, that's really nice.
Is it really as simple as there's 9 numbers. Are there really 9 types of people in the world? Can it really be boiled down to a number? I don't want to be identified as a number, is why I asked that.
I do.
That means you're probably a 4.
But
you're a 2.
I thought he was a 4 too, as
Yeah.
well. That when he said 2, because I said, what's your number? Because just a little bit of time spent with you, because he was saying he loves to go deep into the dark movies. Oh, man, that sounds so foreign.
Oh my God, I'd rather not. I love them when they have great dialogue.
I got to tell you a funny story. My son is a 7, the enthusiast. I'm a 4, which is the romantic or the tragic romantic type. New Year's Eve, we're in Connecticut in a town where we don't know anybody. We have no place to go. It's New Year's Eve. He's 18. I said, let's go to the movies. He's like, awesome. And he's like so enthusiastic. Aiden is perpetually surprised by life. It's almost like, great, let's go to the movies, So I look up some stuff and I take him to the movies. What do you think I took him to see on New Year's Eve?
I don't know.
Manchester by the Sea.
Oh,
Yes.
what?
You could not take a 7 to a worse movie.
What?
He looked at me, he says, I need a drip bag of Prozac right now. And he says, if I don't get some balloons and streamers and party blowers in about 10 minutes, I am going to die. And that was only halfway through the film.
That's funny.
I loved it.
Well, halfway through the film, it's still the longest film in history.
Did you not like Manchester by the Sea?
No. So you didn't what number are you?
We haven't hit a movie together that we like. So.
No, I'm a 3.
A 3. What? Tell me what a 3
Which is still in the feeling triad, right?
It's the feeling triad, with the irony being that, feeling.
Excuse me. I don't know anything about what you're talking about, and most of the people watching this probably don't. So explain a 3.
Okay, a 3, one of the little titles is achiever or performer. Our motivation is to prove that we are worthy of love by the accomplishments that we have and that we do.
And you said to me, I guess we can talk about, I hope we can.
We can talk about anything.
Okay, but it's something that relates to that I said you're one of the few this is a hyperbolic statement because I'm.
And you probably never do that.
Oh, all the time. All the time. Oh, I didn't know.
Bring it.
I didn't know what hyperbole was until Bill Gaither pointed it out that I do it all the time. But I said
I think it's funny that hyper is in that word even. It's all coming together.
But my question is, you said that, I said, well, God has, kept you on a path. From my perspective, I think Lisa Whelchel, speaker at Woman of Faith, a great, some virtuous lovely, beautiful, kind person. I've met you, but I didn't know you or ever have a conversation with you today. So, but you said,
Well, you said you are one of the few child stars that made it out.
That weren't destroyed by
right.
the
And I
thing.
said, I just kept my stuff secret.
and you said God is teaching you.
Oh, that God is teaching me that He's really not threatened by my sin, mistakes, mess ups, the things that I had avoided for so long, fearing that it would in some way say that I don't love Him enough to obey Him. And so that was a lot of decades of my life. And it's only been in the last decade where I've been able to rest into it's not about performance or behavior to gain His love, which then of course translates to my own love for myself or anybody else's acceptance. But that's a real three thing to...
Yeah, that's what I was
that
wondering. If
achievement
that's a
threat
thing.
comes from that achievement. You're literally trying to achieve God's love.
Well, exactly. Well, because as Ian said too, the three energy can show up anywhere. So to wanting to achieve, to be valued, is going to show up very obviously in writing a bunch of books or being on television or doing the things that I have done. But it also shows up in I'm going to be the best Christian that ever was. And even recently, like this last year, I've been going into a kind of an interior not doing journey. But I totally did it with three energy. I'm going to not do better than anybody has ever not done before. So I went on a 30-day silent retreat. I walked the Camino. I'm going on a 10-day, meditation course. I mean, it's just okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit still and do nothing the best.
Yeah.
Are you exhausted?
Yeah. I'm going to be, but you can be the best Christian ever. Yep. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So let's start with the heart triad.
Okay.
Right? 2, 3, and 4. 2s are called the helpers, sometimes the givers.
And you say you identify as a 2.
I do because of I think the main association is the lack of boundaries, the putting the codependent feel of that, putting other people's needs in front of others, etc.
So every type has an unconscious or underlying motivation that drives or fuels the way that they predictably and habitually act, think, and feel. And it also kind of reveals the lens through which they see the world. Okay, because everybody sees the world through a different lens. And that's one of the gifts of the Enneagram is learning that, oh, wait a minute. I am not watching, we're all looking at the same screen, but it's a different movie to each of us,
Yeah.
So the 2's unconscious motivation is they see a world in which you have to give to get, right? So their unconscious motivation is to meet the needs of others while at the same time denying or acknowledging that they themselves have needs. How we doing? Are we doing all right?
Pitiful.
Okay. So 3's
It's true,
performers,
yeah. Right,
3's
3's.
performers are achievers.
Okay.
They see a world in which in which people only value others for what they do, not for who they are inside.
Well, see, I think me knowing that about him, you said knowing the numbers, I think it is good to know everyone's number that you meet if you can figure it out, because then you know how I need to watch to make sure he's not abused by me or others, because he'll do anything you ask him to do, and that's the truth.
Right. So what would be better though is if he figured it out for himself and told you what it was, because only
That would be the healthiest.
that would be the best way, because only he can. We call it self-verifying, right? It's important for him to be able to own it and tell you what's the unconscious motivation that you can't see. All you can see is traits and characteristics that might be a 2 or may not. Because here's the deal: you and I contain, or all of us, all 9 numbers. It's just that one of them is dominant.
Dinner Conversations is brought to you by Child Fund, a community development organization that has been envisioning a world where every child is free to live at their fullest potential, no matter where they're from or what challenges they face. And they've been doing this since 1938. Child Fund's mission is to help bring positive and lasting change to communities around the world by removing the barriers that keep children from realizing and reaching their dreams.
Worldwide, over 570 million children are living in extreme poverty. For too many families, access to health care is a luxury, and opportunities for education and employment are extremely limited. forcing parents to often make choices that hinder rather than promote their children's futures. Child Fund's community development programs address these issues so that children around the world don't just have to survive, they can truly thrive.
Today, it is the support from sponsors like you that allows Child Fund to focus on the children and build lasting relationships with the communities like the ones we visited in Guatemala. Child Fund strives to help provide communities with critical necessities, including education, clean drinking water, food and nutrition, basic health care and hygiene, and helping children and parents alike know and understand their basic human rights.
We believe every one of us have been created unique with value, on purpose, and in love by God. We have been created in the image of God. The children we met in Guatemala are image bearers of our Creator. Think about that.
Yeah.
And I believe to love God best, we must learn to love our neighbors even better. Our neighbors like these children in Guatemala. Child Fund is giving us that unique opportunity, all of us, you guys and us, to serve God by loving these children through sponsoring a child today.
Perhaps you already sponsor a child. Would you consider sponsoring another child in Guatemala? Maybe honor one of your children, a new grandchild, a special niece or nephew. These kids are real kids with real dreams, just like the dreams of your kids and grandkids. We know because we met them. Kids that want to be doctors and lawyers and teachers and musicians, just like us.
Your child sponsorship of $36 a month will immediately link you with the child that you can write letters back and forth with, correspond, send pictures of you and your family, even potentially visit one day.
It really does take so little to make a big difference. Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations. A child is waiting. To learn more about dinner conversations, visit dinner-conversations.com.
And while you're there, check out some of our friendly merch. We've got show mugs and season 1 and 2 DVDs. And we got these little note cards so Mark can write me a note that says, "You're the best co-host
Oh,
ever."
yes. Well, you know, you get that after every episode. And what about this mug with our faces on it?
What says good morning better?
It's like we're on both sides, so now lefty or a righty, you get to see us every morning.
You know, I think it's time we get back to those guests.
Yeah, probably. Beth McCord, thank you so much for allowing us in your home today. And I want to know, my opening question is, what is Enneagram?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, the Enneagram, if people see the symbol, it looks like a 9-pointed star with a circle around it. And it is representative of 9 personality types. And each of those types lets us know why we do what we do. And that's the biggest thing, is why do you think, feel, and behave in particular ways? For me and what I want to do with the Enneagram, I want to bring it from a biblical, Christ-centered perspective. Because if I can help you to understand why you fall into that common pitfall, or why is it that this over here is the best path for you and you feel liberated, that realization really helps you to choose where you're at in life. But we can't just manufacture it, right? I mean, if we could, we would. If this is the best path for me, I'm just going to do it. That just doesn't happen. So for us to realize and surrender and depend on the Lord is really what brings the transformation. But I can't surrender and depend on the Lord if I don't know what's causing me to do certain things.
And what are the 9?
Yeah. So the type 1 is the moral perfectionist.
Oh, mama.
Type 2 is the supportive advisor.
Okay.
Type 3 is the successful achiever. Type 4 is the romantic individualist. Okay. Type 5 is the investigative thinker. 6 is the loyal guardian. 7 is the entertaining optimist. I don't know if you know of anyone.
That was me. I took the test and that was me.
Yeah. And then the type 8 is the protective challenger. And the type 9 is the peaceful mediator.
Okay.
Which is me.
So what you say, they all have positives and they all have negatives or pitfalls, you say?
Exactly. So
what's a pitfall for a 7?
Well, 7 struggle with gluttony.
Oh, bing,
Yes.
bam. Oh my gosh, gluttony?
Yes. And it
Wow.
doesn't mean just food.
Did you know that before I walked in here, or did you just look at me and say they must struggle
No.
with gluttony?
No, that's just how it is. So that's kind of a core weakness of the 7, and they all have core weaknesses.
In other words, if a bite is good, the whole pie is
absolutely.
better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
true.
not just with food.
No, it's not.
It's the 7s feel almost that there's this kind of empty bucket inside that they constantly need to keep filling,
Full of
but it has
holes.
holes.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my gosh, so the
more you
more
pour
they're
in.
anxious, the more they have to pour with experiences and stimulation, excitement, whatever it is. And so they keep pouring and pouring, but the holes just keep it running. But if the 7 can learn to savor and to be grateful and to see the blessings they have, the more the holes plug up and the more they feel filled up and they have satisfaction and they're more content.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So each type has something that's kind of hindering or blocking them from fully understanding the gospel. Not in the sense that, all the gospel applies to us, but there's something that's just kind of blocking us. Like, can I really believe it's true for me? And so my goal is to help everyone understand, well, what's blocking it for you? And how can we open that up so you can really feel the immense passion that Christ has for you? And that brings transformation.
So everybody should take this test if they want to know. And there are others. What's the difference between this and the Myers-Briggs?
Right. So the Myers-Briggs is great. The Myers-Briggs is great. The Strength Finders, DISC, all of those are great. They typically are kind of showing you your outward behavior or your preferences, but this is just telling it like it is. This is why you do what you do. So we have motivations behind our personalities that are driving our thinking, feeling, and behaviors. And those come from your core fears and your core desires. And also the core weakness, which we just talked about with gluttony. So the core fears are the things that we're constantly running away from. Even if we're not cognizant of it, we're like, oh, that cannot
Is this
happen.
the 7 or everybody?
Everybody.
Okay.
And then there's the desires we want, and we're constantly trying to get those. So for the 7, their core fears is being trapped in emotional pain, to be limited, bored,
Ooh.
missing out on something, especially something fun.
Oh.
So those kinds of things.
Bam, bam, bam.
And so, but the core desire for the 7, what they're trying to always get, is to be fully satisfied and content. And so then the core weakness comes in there with the gluttony. So when we were kids, we had something that we really hoped we could hear or feel or sense. And so for the 7 is, you will be taken care of. And true?
That is unreal.
Yeah.
Because I've always said my biggest fear is that I would ever be a burden to anybody.
Yep.
And I couldn't afford to pay someone to wipe my bottom.
Yep.
You know, if I couldn't reach it myself.
Yep.
In an old nursing home.
Right.
I thought, I don't want to beg someone to help
Yeah.
me. I want to be able to say, okay, I can pay you to do this.
Yeah.
You know, that fear of being a burden to somebody.
Yeah.
Now, is that part of the 7?
Yeah. And the 7s feel like, well, I have these needs, especially the empty bucket, right? And they're kind of looking around, even as kids, like no one's really filling it up. Now, maybe I have wonderful parents, maybe I didn't, whatever the situation is, but it's like no one's really filling it up. I've got to do this on my own. So they're very independent people and they're seeking ways to fill it up for themselves. But if they could feel that someone's really going to take care of that, that would be amazing. And that's what the gospel says.
Well, that's what Jesus does.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank God for him.
So,
That'd be a mess.
so that's where my coaching comes in, because we each have this situation going on that we think, well, the gospel's great, but I still got to do this on my own. And the gospel says no. So like for you feeling that empty bucket, there are ways for us to realize and to open up our hearts and go, I am taken care of, right? I mean,
Right.
Christ fully takes care of you.
So far, so good.
But 7s out there, they may not fully be experiencing that yet. So we want them to understand what's blocking them and help them to see past that and how the gospel really opens them up and fills them up.
So 7s, the enthusiast, oftentimes, sometimes called the epicure. They love the finer things in life, those 7s. They really love...
like a manicure.
Yeah, something like that. But not
But
quite.
they like the finer things in life, huh?
Yeah, they do, and they love to sample it all.
Oh, no, that's, yes.
Yeah, if you want to make a 7 swoon, take them to a buffet restaurant.
Isn't that the truth? Give me a cafeteria.
Oh my gosh,
I
right?
love options.
You're just,
Which is funny how that goes along with the
options?
finer,
That's
yeah.
so 7, right? 7s, the need of a 7 is to really,
Don't miss anything.
well, that's, fear of missing out is like horror for a 7. But they have a need to be spontaneous and fun and always keeping it light. But it's all in service to avoiding pain. And pain to a 7 would be grief, boredom,
Being
stuck,
uncomfortable.
anything uncomfortable. It's like they just default to how do we lighten this up? They want to cram as much pleasure and fun into every given minute as is
what's wrong
possible.
with What's with the...
Well, tell them what's wrong with that.
Wait, come on. Tell me what's wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it until you begin to overplay it, exaggerate it, and over-rely on it. So then it doesn't become a gift. Then it becomes...
Annoying.
Well, it becomes something that is more of a curse than a blessing. Because you're now using the gift really that God gave you, which is joy, in service to what your ego wanted to do, which is to protect you against things like pain and all the things that regular civilians have to feel. But the reason that you guys avoid it is because you suspect that if I go there, if I go into that space of pain, I may not come out and there'll be no one here to support me.
Does that resonate?
Well, kind of a little bit. But I do love a serious conversation. I don't feel the need to be on all the time. And I don't like being around comedians who are on all the time. They annoy me because you have to think as hard to follow a joke as you do if we were having a real serious conversation. And I have found that some of the greatest humor I've been able to use in my life on stage has come from horrific situations. Hitting Shepherd Drive face first without a helmet. I got 20 minutes out of that. It's one of the funniest stories I've ever told.
So he's going to turn it into humor, and I'm going to turn it into a song that dangles on despair.
One more thing I was going to say when I talked to the lady the other day is that what I got from that, and I do want to delve into this more because I did learn so much when I discovered I was a 7, and then she told me what that meant. And I was going, dear God, that is me. And is that I have trouble being here.
Being present.
I am always in the future or in the past, and I have learned prior to this that God is in neither place. He won't even go with you to either place because neither one exists. I mean, I know this intellectually, but since that meeting with her, I've been telling myself all the time, be here in my head, be here.
Be here now.
Put the phone down, be here. And it's just the beginning process for me, but I did learn that from that. And those two words I think are going to help me.
Well, 7s typically have monkey mind. They go from one idea, one topic to another. They skip around. They're like hummingbirds dipping into every, flower. And they have trouble focusing and really oftentimes have trouble finishing things. I tell 7 sometimes, you need to finish list, not a to-do list, you need a to-finish list.
Interesting.
Because they get toward the end of a project and it's sort of like, I got something else. This is...
Well, it becomes work.
Okay, so all this awareness though, and I was hearing a lot of this in your story too, Lisa, when I was listening to y'all's podcast together. Like, there's one thing to become aware of yourself that I think is good, whether that's through counseling, whether that's through the Enneagram, whatever. But then what do you do with that, right? Like, if I'm merely aware of myself, self-awareness can't be the end goal, right? Like, how does this awareness of myself as a 2 and my core health, my core fears, desires and all that, how does that actually help me interact in my relationships with others, in my relationship with myself, especially from like a spiritual growth standpoint? That's what I think of, because my core thing is wanting to be loved and valued, which is probably all of our core desire to some degree. I don't know what mine is at 2 exactly, but how does my being aware of my 2-ness actually, and your 3-ness and your 4-ness and his 7-ness take us somewhere good? Yeah. You know what I mean?
How has it changed your life? Finding out you're a 3.
Okay, so I think there's certainly different ways to learn these tools and use them. Ian may have a different way. I'm kind of experimenting more with it. When you said an awareness, that's not an end in itself, but I do think awareness can be an end in itself. Especially if I take the awareness and then try to change myself, I'm going to just tap into my 3 energy and use that to change myself. So I'm just actually reinforcing it. So, and I'm wondering if that will apply to other numbers as well. But the awareness, and then if there is work to be done, it's in the acceptance, self-compassion around it, rather than, oh, ugly, I don't want to be a 3. That's just creepy. Any number, I think if you really do identify your number, there's going to be an element. It's like, oh, I don't want to be that.
Glutton.
Any of them, yeah. And so for me, the most important work is awareness and then gentleness toward myself about it. Oh, there's me doing that again. Oh, there's me feeling insecure again and wanting to perform in order to get love, rather than try to fix myself.
Has that changed the way then you've seen others, like as you've been more gentle and caring with yourself through this? Like I even think about you saying how you kept secrets you just kept those things secret. Now that you're becoming aware of those and not afraid of those, at least in regards to God still loves me through that. Other people, I mean, does that change how?
It changes everything, because even in that scenario, the fancy word for keeping a secret was hiding behind the persona. So I created this character, this role that was perfect Christian, perfect mother, perfect wife, perfect, whatever, because I thought I needed that in order to have people like me. And so, of course, that actually turns out to be more like Teflon, and it actually works against connection. But in the point where I was able to, first of all, experience that God's love did not retreat or he didn't leave when I wasn't perfect, but actually felt more connected. When I kind of played into that and experimented, then I began to experiment with coming out from behind the persona with other people and experiencing connection. And then, of course, that then encourages them to come out from behind their self-protective mechanisms, whatever they are for whatever number, so that there was real connection at an authentic level.
When you start to doubt if you exist, God believes in you. Confounded by the evidence, God believes in you. When your chances seem so slim, when your light burns so dim, and you swear you don't believe in Him, God believes in you. When your eyes are just to fall again, God believes in you. Deserted by your closest friends, God believes in you. When you're betrayed with just a kiss, you turn your cheek with another fist. Oh, it does not have to end like this. God believes in you. Oh, everything matters if anything matters at all. Everything matters no matter how big, no matter how small. Oh, God believes in you. Oh, God believes in you. When you're so ashamed that you could die, God believes in you. And you can't do right even though you try, God believes in you. Blessed are the ones who grieve, the ones who mourn, the ones who bleed. Oh, in sorrow you sow, but in joy you reap. God believes in you. Oh, everything matters if anything matters at all. Everything matters no matter how big, no matter how small. Oh, God believes in you. Oh, God believes in you. Oh, God believes in you.
You can help change the life of a child today by partnering with Andrew and me and supporting a boy or girl in Guatemala through Child Fund today.
Your sponsorship will not only improve the future of one child's life, your child's sponsorship will promote communities in Guatemala. The communities that Mark and I just visited, where we saw parents who are learning to value and to protect and to advance the worth and rights of their teens and children, who through your child's sponsorship are literally changing the culture of each child's community from the inside out.
Perhaps you already sponsor a child. Would you consider sponsoring another child in Guatemala? Maybe in honor of one of your children, a new grandchild, a special niece or nephew. It takes so little to make such a profound difference in the life of a child.
Your sponsored child is a real kid with real dreams, just like the dreams of your children and grandchildren. We know because we met them. Kids that want to be doctors and lawyers and teachers, even musicians, kind of like us. Your sponsorship gives these children their chance to achieve their very unique dreams.
You may not be able to change the whole world, but you can change the world for one child. Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations to sponsor a child in Guatemala today. As a small way to say thanks for your child's sponsorship, we will send you an autographed Season 2 DVD and Songs from the Set CD.
Yes, plus a special item made just for you by the communities in Guatemala.
And every sponsor and a guest is invited to a Dinner Conversations Friends and Family Weekend in Nashville.
Hey now, which includes meal times with Mark and me, private little concerts and chit chats with our friends, and a special Sunday morning service that will happen right before you head out of town.
And if you sponsor more than one child, you will have the opportunity to be a guest on an actual episode of Dinner Conversations during the Friends and Family Weekend in Nashville.
Does it get better than that?
No.
Does it, Mark? Does it? Stay tuned for exact details, and don't forget to visit childfund.org/dinner conversations to sponsor your child today.
What number would care the least about all this?
About what now?
About any of
The
this?
numbers.
Because I'm so confused right now. We're a little bit. Why does anyone listening need this? And also, why is this any different from Myers-Briggs or one of those others?
Yeah, because lots of people go through life with very little self-knowledge. And when that happens, they go on autopilot of personality. They go to sleep in their personality. They're just reflexively doing the same stuff over and over. You know this, right? If you look we're old enough that you can look in the rearview mirror of your life and see a repeating patterns of the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. And the reason for that is that we haven't been self-knowledgeable enough and self-aware enough to realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm on autopilot of personality here. These are just defense systems or mechanisms that have been running since, or pre-programming that's been, since childhood, just running. And once you learn the Enneagram, you begin to, you're able, as Lisa was saying earlier, you begin to say, uh-oh, there it goes. I'm launching into that. I'm beginning to become a little manic. My mind is running too fast. I'm telling jokes right and left. And you could stop and say to yourself in a moment like that, for a 7, for example, go, what am I trying to avoid right now? What feeling or fear or something's going on that I don't want to feel, and so I'm just amping up my personality style in order to duck it.
And what you're hitting on is what I've heard you say before, that the Enneagram is not about just identifying what you do, but it's why you do it.
Totally. Because all of us have traits of all 9 numbers. If you just were trying to base it on traits, you go, I'm that, or I'm that, or I'm that, or I'm that, I'm that. The way you determine your number isn't by characteristics or traits. They may be clues, but ultimately it's by which of these underlying unconscious motivations do you most identify with, and that will help you zero in on.
And I asked you about fear. You said the underlying motivation for a 7, 6, 7, one of these
5, 6, 7
is fear. but everybody has fear.
Totally, and everybody has shame, and everybody has anger. I would just say that for 5s, 6s, and 7s, that fear is the one that's most close, right under the skin.
Yeah.
Right under the skin.
It's a good motivator. It's a horrible motivator.
Right.
But it
5,
is a
6, and 7,
motivator.
that's your management system. That's your fear management system, right? Is
5, 6, 7.
what I just said about 7s. That's your particular way of dealing with fear, right? In your life is this avoidance of pain
Yes.
and of unpleasant feelings through, this constant pursuit of really happiness and spontaneity and,
Yeah.
It has when you're not very self-aware, it has a Peter Pan-like quality. It's like, I just don't want to grow up.
I always thought of you as Peter Pan.
You see, he's just like Peter
Well, at
Pan.
least you've always thought of me.
Okay, but when I think about it, but aren't we all like when we talk about our core desires and stuff? Like when I think about my core desire, this desire to be loved, to feel loved, to understand my value because I am loved. I feel like in some ways, just like he's saying with fear, aren't we all desiring the same core thing? Like, aren't we all on the same trajectory of wanting to be safe in the knowledge that we are loved and received? Or
I think there's you use two different words. Safe and love are not necessarily the same thing. And I think that one of the questions, like, why is this important to know? I think our management, our defense systems, the things that we learned as a child, the things that really do kind of help us identify our number, have been put in place to keep us safe. But they're a barrier to protect us. And so then later on down the road, we may be safe, but we probably are not experiencing love because there's a barrier. And so it's in the breaking through that fear and letting that fall down that we have an opportunity to actually connect with ourselves, to be authentic, to be who we were all along before we got afraid and hid behind this protection. So I think ultimately knowing it helps us to be able to identify it, so then we can do the brave work of letting it fall slowly to have what we most want, which is to be loved, but not loved for whatever we've painted on the outside of this. Fun-loving guy, successful woman, giver, unique individual, but to be loved for who we really are. And I want to be loved whether I'm successful or not. You want somebody to think you're special just because you're special in their eyes. You want to be loved. Yeah, and you want to be able to not be funny and not be happy all the time. And as you've said, swim around in those places where the real connection is. Yeah. But that takes bravery, and it first takes kind of knowing what it is we have to gently let drop.
Was that harder for growing up in a spotlight scenario? Because you were how old when you first ended up in California?
12.
In Mickey Mouse Club, right? And so that's a lot of happy, that's a lot of a certain exterior. I mean, by the nature of your job, what you're getting paid to do. Was it easier to hide?
I started hiding a lot earlier than 12.
It was more innate than just some
I think we do pick up these defense mechanisms, these self-protection management systems really, really early, because there's just such brilliance in them too. And they really are something to not despise, but to say, oh, thank you for keeping me safe for so long. Let's work together to be loved. And, but that takes a while to be able to kind of tap into the core.
How's that going?
It's a long, hard journey. It's not easy, and there's a lot of loss involved. As you mentioned earlier, like why wouldn't you want to be happy all the time? Or like why wouldn't I want to be successful? I remember that early on when I realized I was successful but didn't have any close friends, and that to really concentrate on relationships, I might not be as successful. And that's been the truth. I've had to let go of a lot of success in exchange for something that's more valuable, but it certainly,
still felt like
doesn't
a loss,
get what,
right?
The world tells you. And the ego feeds on, junk food maybe.
Was there grief involved in that then? Even though it seemed like a surface thing, well, I can give up my success for relationship, right? In our mind, we think, sure, I could do that.
Well, people love us the way we are. You may lose friends if you stop giving so much to get love.
I've lost a lot of relationships.
There's a lot of people that probably it's like they just want you because they know you'll give them anything. So there's grief in real life. There's people that don't want to be friends with me because I'm not, like, they held me up as a standard and I've let them down and they just need to get away from me. So there is grief because there's great loss.
And it's you're hitting on something really, and we may have talked about this before. In all my soured relationships, what I always end up in hindsight going is, I just wanted to be wanted, I want someone who doesn't need me, but just wants me. Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm.
But see, you may have to make the first step, and that's to not just feed everybody's and fulfill everybody's need. And that's scary because that's when you just stand there naked without making the move to get the connection that you know you can. And it may not come, but if it does, it's beautiful. And if it doesn't, it's painful.
Mm-hmm. Life is just a pain.
Spoken like a true seven. Let's just
we're
stay
up
in the joy
against it
zone.
so much. We just pit ourselves against it. So the Enneagram could also, this kind of awareness about ourselves could also lead to a greater, deeper surrender if we really start to receive,
How do you get the spirit? Is this a spiritual thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, totally. And you asked earlier about the Myers-Briggs and stuff. I think one of the things that differentiates the Enneagram is that it really has a powerful spiritual component to it. In that, it really doesn't just reveal what's best about you, which it does, but also what's worst about you. One of the things I often do with people is I'll show them the Enneagram diagram, and I said, well, you contain all 9 of these. And so if you think about it, one's the perfectionists. We didn't really go over them, but really, when they're healthy, they represent the goodness of God, right? Mm-hmm. 2's the love of God. 3's would be the effectiveness of God, or the glory of God. 4's the pathos, the beauty of God. 5's the wisdom, the omniscience of God. 6's the unfailing loyalty of God. 7's the joy of God. 8's the power and justice of God. And 9's the peace of God. Now, that's when you're healthy and you're using, you have all those inside because you're bearers of the image of God, but you have a particular gift or charism, to bring joy or to bring love, right? And, but when you overplay that card, when you use it in service to your own ego's agenda, when you use that card to manipulate other people to build their lives and organize their lives to meet your needs and to, fulfill your agenda, that's when you get in trouble. And so what the Enneagram does is it reveals, here's this beautiful piece of you, and here's where it can go south.
That's where you need to work.
This is where you go. And without that self-awareness, it's interesting, Calvin, this is what actually put me on the track of one of the reasons when I read this line. He said, without knowledge of self, there is no knowledge of God.
Oh, wow.
Opening lines of the Institutes.
Which, if we're the bearers of the image of God, that would make sense.
Right, what Calvin was saying is if you want to know about God, what is the closest primary source of information available to you to do it? You.
So if someone out there Googles Enneagram, they may not find you, or they may not find a Christian Enneagram coach.
Yeah.
Why have you connected those two? What makes it better?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a pastor's wife, and we've done ministry for years. And as we know, transformation really comes from understanding Christ and what he has done for us. And so when people say, well, how does this bring transformation? I have a really hard time just saying, just believe in it. Because believe in what? So the gospel is what really brings the transformation. And what I'm hoping to do as an Enneagram coach is to show people that as humans, we end up being kind of in this little box, this constrained box. Because a lot of people are like, don't put me in a box. I'm like, I'm not putting you in a box. You're already in a box. I'm helping you to get out of that box. And so what happens with our flesh, our personality, the not so great parts of us, we get real constrained. I have to think this way. I have to be this way. That brings self-condemnation, fear, and shame. And I have to be better in some form, whatever the type feels that is, to earn God's love and favor and other people's love and favor. So we're very constrained. But that's not the gospel. The gospel is you are his beloved child, free, forgiven, freedom, cherished, unconditional love. And that's what's true 24/7, 365.
Right.
But what happens? Our personalities chime in, the world chimes in, the flesh, all this stuff. And all of a sudden we come back over here. We fall in those same pitfalls of shame, self-condemnation, fear, all of those things. We feel like we're an orphan. We've got to do it all on our own. And so that's this common constraint here on earth. So we are with the Lord, but we're also here on earth. So my goal is to help people understand why this keeps happening and why aren't we fully experiencing this, and how can we experience the belovedness that we already are in Christ. So that's my role.
How has Enneagram changed your life?
I'm a very different person. So my personality type goes along to get along. And so I used to basically follow my husband in his career doing whatever, not because he told me I should, just that's what I did.
Right.
And so I really didn't voice what I thought and felt. I didn't really stand out. Nines really don't want to do that. But when God said, you have an important message to get out there, it was like, oh. And so my work is trusting that God has something for me.
When you say your work?
My work, as a nine. As a nine, moving to the healthy part of nine is to assert myself, to have confidence, not arrogancy, but confidence that God is giving me a message, and to present it to others. So the nine really wants to just
So there really are
lay back.
steps for each number of how you can do better.
Yep.
And mine are?
And yours are savor. That's the biggest word for 7.
Great.
To savor the food, the experiences, the relationships, the moment. That's just one really
I tell
good
that
word.
to myself all the time.
My dad's
and
a
I
7.
didn't even know Enneagram.
Yeah, and he savors his food, and that's where I got the word.
He's a 7?
Yeah.
Okay, so savor and what else?
So savoring and just being in the moment. So 7s are constantly thinking of what's next.
Oh my gosh.
And because that
I feel like
empty,
I'm sitting here with Jesus or something.
little ninja, right?
Reading my mail.
And so if you're able to go, okay, I know my mind is going to the next thing because I'm feeling this emptiness, I'm feeling anxious. I don't need to be like that. I know God has everything.
Change the channel.
Yeah. So you go from, I don't need to take care of all of these things. Christ is going to take care of them. He's going to fill me up. He's going to plug those holes and bring me satisfaction and rest. Just the mindset shift will help you to become more calm, to be more present. And even then when your mind starts racing and starts going off, you can go, okay, wait, what's going on? So I always tell people we can parent our personalities. Our personalities are these little kids throwing big temper tantrums, and we have to do it this way. And it's like, no. We don't. There's truth that we can hold on to, and we can say to the personality in a loving way, no, we're not going to do that. This is the path that we need to go on, because even though it's hard to grow, it's what brings freedom and rest.
So the word for today is savor.
Savor for the 7.
I have savored our time together.
Well, thank you.
What the Enneagram does is provide us an opportunity to really look at ourselves, to look at the defense mechanisms and the way that we defend our own hearts, to learn to relax it, to learn to soften our grip on it, to stop using those things to win love, appreciation, to protect us from the things that frighten us, to ward off the world, right? So these are really just systems that came into place when we were young kids to protect our essential selves, right? In a world that felt hostile. They were also ways of, kids are real smart, really. I was reading yesterday. I was away this weekend with Helen Palmer doing in San Francisco. She's a great Enneagram teacher, and she says this. She says, kids know what the family wants from them even before the family does. Isn't that amazing? So what she's saying is that, we read faces and responses, and we as little kids go, I got to get my needs met. So I have to create a personality that may not be consistent with who I actually am. It may not be consistent with how I'm made, but I got to do this. So I got to, I got to be a winner. If I want to get that, what I perceive is my love, my security, my the esteem of others, a sense of mastery and control in the world. Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
So I think what part of the goal of the Enneagram is to get back to who you really are, because all these types are strategies or programs for happiness, what we think is going to get happiness, but really they're false selves, they're personas, they're another word would be ego, right? And they, if we can just relax our grip on them, and with unconditional self-friendship and compassion, as you were saying, not beating ourselves up like what you might have learned in the church, but just to go, oh, well, yeah, of course, this is a system that I've relied on for a long, long time, but I don't have to actually live my life chained to it. I can release my grip on it, and when I do, and it falls away, I don't have to really try. That true self just emerges on its own.
And I think, that tagging onto that would be, if there is a goal that we can define, and it would be rest or peace. And so in the Old Testament, God was leading the children of Israel. The goal was rest, to stop wandering, to just be in relationship with God. And then with Jesus, it was peace. He left us peace. So all of this stuff that we do to protect ourselves, that is not rest, and that's not peace. It's exhausting, and it's self-protection. And so I think the goal is to stop all that and then just rest in who we are. And the irony is, at first it feels like, well, I'll just rest in who I am. It's not going to be as good as what I was,
Or it's interesting.
Or it's interesting. I'm probably not going to get what I want out of it. It's going to be hard, but I'll just... The irony is when we discover our true self, because I can't say that I like myself because I don't know myself yet, but because I shut myself off at such a young age that after you drop the persona, that little self is still at that age. So I got to find out who I am and grow up and grow into that self. So it may be little bitty before you even get in touch with it. And then there's a resting in, and you don't make something grow. You rest, you put it in the sun, it rains and it grows on its own. And so even that is peace and rest, but then you blossom into who you were supposed to be, who you always been all along, and it's a beautiful thing. But the interim part, that's what we defend against with these ways of being most of our life, because we don't want to go through that middle part either.
Yeah, I love what Richard Rohr says about this. He and I had a conversation on my podcast about it. That, of course, the Galatians feel, for I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live... Well, wait a minute. Who's that I? There's an I here in the beginning that you just said you just got crucified. Now in the second half of that sentence, you're saying the life I now live. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Who's that?
Right.
So that word I is ego or ego in Greek. So
Let go of my ego.
yeah, it's like yeah, exactly. So what maybe what Paul is saying there in a different translation is, for my false self no longer lives.
Okay.
Right? It's been crucified with Christ. That false self.
And it is a crucifixion.
Yeah, and it ain't 10 minutes.
No.
It took Jesus a while to die on the cross.
Right.
6 hours. So it's like, you got. Yeah, and the darn thing resuscitates too every now and then. It comes back to life. So but it's the false self that has to go. I used to think what was being described in that first half of that text was that God wants to annihilate my identity. And you know what I mean? Like, I got to go with all of those things, and I got to become some delete myself and become some mimic version of Jesus in the world. No, that's not what's being said here. What is the false self has to go. The true self is the I think, in the second half there of that statement. And I love that idea that the goal of the spiritual life is to let go of the false self, because nothing could please God more than our being our true selves, the ones that He created to live in the world and reflect His joy, His love, His glory, right? His beauty and pathos. We just get our ego out of the way, and then all of a sudden, all those gifts just begin to shine on their own. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to work at it.
So it's like dying to Christ. Yeah, I heard that all my life. You die daily. So it's the same type thing. It could be hourly.
I think what the Enneagram is really good for is self-knowledge and self-awareness. And what I mean by self-awareness is that once you develop enough self-knowledge, you can develop an inner observer that in the moment can monitor and then regulate your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So for me, like, I struggle with envy as a 4, right? It's
What? You struggle with
envy.
what? Oh,
Envy is a big deal for me. Gluttony is for you. Pride is for you.
Yeah.
Right? Deceit is for you.
What is for her?
Deceit.
Oh, deceit.
And for in a capital 3, which I have been all my life, deceit, even like to myself. Like, I'm not even aware, mostly in the past, but still, I'm not even aware where I'm not being authentic, because I've been inauthentic all my life because I've been afraid to be authentic.
Like little lies, little exaggerations, little...
Well, I don't know, just more like performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like performing to be a certain way so long that I think that's who I am. But it's because I've been too afraid to drop it and really discover who I am.
Do you like who you are?
Do I like who I am? I still don't know that I know myself well enough to answer that question. I liked who I became. I liked who I made myself to be, probably better than I like myself who I am. But I will say that it feels really good to be loved and accepted for who I am, as opposed to admired and respected for who I became.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Someone said I'd rather be loved for who I am. Wait, I'd be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm
Hated,
that
maybe that's the wrong one.
brave.
no, I mean...
Well, those are my options?
Well, it's funny because I think about it when I'm just thinking about who I really am. I don't know that I like that much. But when I am around people who accept me just as I am, it's a profound experience and one I don't want to disengage with.
And I don't know if I like who I am all the time either, but I agree with God that I was worth it. I mean, God, I agree with God that I was worth dying for. I don't understand that. But am I to disagree with God? And I've chosen to believe Christ is God. And God thought we were worth it. And so I think the created is rude to tell the Creator that we weren't good enough, that, mentally I've got it figured out that way, that.
Yeah, but do you have it there? Because I think it's really simple to have that as an abstraction or an idea. But I know plenty of people who say, I love myself because I'm loved. And it's like, yeah, but do you have a felt experience of that? Or is that just a felt experience of it? Do you know that here so that idea vibrates through your whole being? Or is it just like,
well, the things I used to want to change about myself, I have learned to accept and love.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they're not changing.
I have moments of it. I think it's a little bit like clouds and sun. Periodically the clouds go by, the sun comes out, and then here comes another weather pattern of self-loathing or whatever.
Well, on a bad, we all have days where I doubt everything. I do.
Right. Sure. That takes a lot of courage, that translation from the mind, how we work it out in our mind, to believing it in our heart. That translation is where I'm still in that
12
translation.
inches. From the head to the heart, and it's a long trip, ain't it?
Yeah. I mean, it feels that way. It feels like a lifelong trip. Mm-hmm. And is it possible that we'll never fully get there on this side of life? I mean, is that the possibility too? And there's a surrender in that's sweet? That, hey, we can do this self-actualization and awareness, and that's like, we're getting closer to who
what's
we
the
are.
goal? The goal?
Yeah.
What's the goal? What's the goal with this Enneagram?
Enneagram, it's all about the heart.
It's all about the heart, bro.
What would your mother say about all this?
Darling, I don't know.
Details. I love your mother.
Yeah.
I'm dying to meet that woman.
You have no idea.
Oh, she sounds like a character off Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, she is.
But if either of you had to sum it up, and it's probably non-summary.
Is the goal to sell books?
For you.
Well, it's not to not sell books.
Well, we want to thank Ian Morgan Cron and Lisa Whelchel.
That's right. You can find their books and their product of all sorts in our Amazon affiliate link in the episode description below.
And if you'd like to binge watch Dinner Conversations, you can do that right now on Amazon Prime. Dinner Conversations is brought to you by Child Fund, a community development organization that has been envisioning a world where every child is free to live at their fullest potential, no matter where they're from or what challenges they face since 1938.
Partner with us and our good friends at Child Fund to change the world and the life of a child by considering sponsoring a child today.
It really does take so little to make a difference.
Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations.
A child is waiting.